Welcome to the Royal Family Real Estate Podcast, where none of us are shy about giving our opinions. We are a local, family-owned real estate brokerage and pride ourselves on being experts in the Chicagoland area. Join us on our podcast journey to hear what's going on in our local real estate market, as well as get an insider's point of view on this crazy industry. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, friends? Welcome to another episode of the Royal Family Real Estate Podcast. My name is Jason Stallard, a listing agent with the Royal Family Real Estate Podcast, and I'm here with the owner and president and managing broker and visionary of Royal Family Real Estate, my friends, a local family-owned brokerage that is coming to a town near you. My friends, we're excited today to be able to talk with me and Royal Hartwig about the fall market and just what we're experiencing out there so that we could give you, the home buyer, the education you need, and the seller, all the information you're going to need to know. Is it best to sell now or should we wait to the spring? But enough of me talking. Royal Hartwig, what's up, man?
Morning.
Good morning, man.
I like the new look.
Yeah, it's a little different, right?
Looking good.
It's a little different.
Yeah,
a little smarter, maybe. I don't know if that's actually going to come out to like equate to anything, but
absolutely.
People keep telling me that. So.
I think you're going to move your conversion rate up a couple notches because of that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So maybe people will look at the glasses now, not to shine on my head, because that kind of
distracts them.
Yeah, is that what's going to happen? But I hope so.
You always mention the shine in your head, and I don't see it until you say that.
Yeah, and then it's there.
Like, oh, okay.
It's totally there. Yeah, it's I can't help but see that every time I look at myself, because
it's not as bad as you think, though.
Yeah, it's a glare. But anyway, we're not here to talk about my glasses or the hair today. We're here to talk about the fall market. Fall market in 2024. What are you feeling? What are you seeing?
So still strong, surprisingly, still very strong market given how strong it has been. But going very much in the cyclical nature of this business, where we're starting to see average prices come down. We're seeing that we can't get the prices that we could have gotten in spring. Not as many showings per listing, not as many offers. And now we're getting the trickle of sellers that say, we want to sell, not sure if it's now or spring, but probably want to wait till spring. And then as we, we're October 4th right now?
Yes.
So as we get in November, December, then typically it's always spring unless it's some major event or thing that they need to sell at that point. So it just becomes that in that stage now where it's kind of helping them get ready for spring and having those discussions, whether it makes sense now or spring. A lot of times if it's purely based on value and it doesn't matter if they sell now or then typically it's wait till spring because that's when prices will jump up again.
All right. So you said a lot there, Royal, a lot of great information. Let's kind of start from a seller's point of view. What if you're going in right now to a market analysis? What's the conversation looking like if somebody wants to be able to sell in the spring? What are some things that we could do to ensure that we could maximize the time we have to ensure that we're getting the best ROI? Come the spring.
Yeah. So first we do the analysis to see pricing and if they feel it makes sense, because if they're going to be out of the home and accruing costs because it's vacant and waiting till spring, it doesn't make sense to wait till spring typically because of the holding costs and then having this property that's vacant in the winter that could have pipes break or who knows what happening. Mm-hmm. So it's figuring out that scenario. But when we meet with them now, I like to do, I know you do, a very detailed analysis, and we take pictures and looking at the outside, the inside. So one of the main benefits of getting prepared now and going on in spring is that, let's say the outside, if you need paint and you're going to go on in maybe February, which it's not necessarily spring, but some people would want to go on in February. That's when it starts to pick up.
Yeah, after the Super Bowl, we kind of start to see an uptick usually, right?
Yeah, and it depends on the weather. Like if it's super nice weather and February is in the 50s and 60s, then it probably makes sense to put it on at that point because you're extremely low inventory and buyers starting to really come into the market much heavier because the nicer the weather, the stronger the activity.
Yep. So
in February, you're likely not going to be able to paint the outside or trim or whatnot and really get it prepared. So we might do some of those things now in preparation for that. because the weather's cooler or the weather's warmer to do it now. Not to mention maybe take photos now, to really capture all the leaves and how in the back maybe it's all like a block of just greenery.
Mhm.
Whereas in February that's not going to be the case, and you're not going to see that until maybe May.
Yeah, totally. Listening, getting ready to go on in the spring, but we're going out there next week to get pictures because the flowers are still there.
Yeah.
The trees are still in bloom, and we know that that's going to shift. So if one question that I get a lot, I'm sure you get a lot, like, well, what if I sell now versus the spring? How much more money do I get for, in the spring market usually? How would you answer that?
Yeah. So obviously that's a hard one,
Yeah.
So when
if we had a crystal ball though, man, we would be gold.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We would be gold.
But if you look at spring of this year, what you could do is maybe say, okay, a couple percentage points higher than that. That might be like kind of the easiest way to try to evaluate that question. Obviously there's always the asterisks of like, hey, anything could happen, who knows what, and that could throw everything off that we're talking about. But if everything remained constant and we look at spring prices this year, and maybe we get 3 to 5% higher depending on how next spring turns out. But the fact of the matter is that you going back to as far as the MLS allows us to go with their data, 2008, every year you see values go up in spring and summer and down in fall and winter.
Mm-hmm.
Every year that has happened. And even back to 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, where the market was absolutely horrendous, you still saw values go up in spring, down in fall. It just, which way are they trending? So it definitely makes sense to wait till spring at this point because your prices are on their way down. And we're in October, so anything that's closed, anything that's put under contract today is closing in November, right? So you're already, when you look at the graph in terms of prices going down, they're on their way down now. And you're going to add another 2 months of downward trajectory. And then we've got another 3 months until they start to go back up in February or March of next year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on their way down, but it will pick back up in spring. So that's what I do in trying to give in a guesstimate is, okay, this is where we are now. And then try to get a gauge with where they were in spring, maybe adding a couple percentage points. But it's a hard one because homes are different. You could get the same or a little bit more for a house right now that a house got in spring because it's a really unique house and very difficult for people to find. It's move-in condition.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of homes, you have buyers that have been waiting 2 or 3 years to get into, like a ranch that's completely redone and in a great area, very sought after. Those might be able to capture a little bit higher than spring because of just the lack of supply.
Yeah, for sure. And somebody wants that. They've been waiting for that
Yes.
for a long time. So whether it comes out in the spring or whether it comes out in the fall, people are chomping at the bit.
Totally.
Working and talking with sellers now, it's very much like, all right, spring, most likely in as long as the market stays healthy, you're going to get more money in the springtime market. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball. Really trying to look at it from like, okay, well, what can we do now if you're going to wait till spring? For one, take the stress off of moving. Because I think the stress of moving, I mean, let's be honest, it sucks, and there's a lot to that piece, especially for like our baby boomer generation, where you just have 30, 40 years of stuff in your home, right, to be able to sell. So to me, give yourself like a roadmap of like, okay, just a day at a time and just chisel upwards to it. So get yourself packed, get yourself getting things in the right order, so that the house is able to look its best, right? When it comes to that spring market. But one thing you mentioned when we were talking about this earlier is like, if you could do some work now too, in that time frame and maybe even get that work done cheaper, just because it goes back to supply and demand, and those handyman might be more availability and they might be cheaper.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Their schedules slow down in the end of fall and especially into winter and January. They're going to be a lot more available. So you get some better pricing, get some better availability, and then more time to kind of think things through and strategically do whatever you're going to do. If you're going to paint the inside, maybe you schedule it now and kind of prepay with, someone that you trust, but not do it until right before you go on.
Yeah.
Just in case there's any damage or whatnot.
Especially if you have kids.
No question.
Yeah.
Actually, we haven't painted our house for, going up 10 plus years. We were waiting for the kids to leave. It's
like why even spend the money now?
Yeah, I just don't want to paint it and then be aggravated because they just put a mark on the wall. They don't care.
Yeah, walking around with their iPad, running into things. I can see it happening now.
Put your head up.
So some things that people could do. Let's look at that, a high level overview, and then I really want to look at from the buy side, just a little bit of it as well, and to talk about the interest rates.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, but before we jump there, let's the sellers, things that are going to get their ROI usually paint, and especially if you have oak trim, painting that trim white, right? Fixtures, carpet, sometimes flooring in general, but usually not the hardwood. What else would give an ROI in most cases for a seller if they're looking to do some work?
Yeah, well, painting the trim white, that can be a hard one at times because you have to follow everywhere that goes, and the doors and the trim and the windows, and there could be a lot involved there. Obviously, it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get a buyer coming into a home with white trim saying they wish this was golden oak.
Yeah, you don't get the golden oak anymore. Like, I wish we had oak cabinets. You just don't get that.
No, you don't hear that very often.
No, not at all. Yeah.
But in terms of other things you could do would be one of the most recommended thing for me is just like the simple dome lights.
Mm-hmm. Like the 2-packs at Home Depot, right?
Yeah, like super simple. $12 a piece, easy. There's outlets sometimes make a difference, because they'll have maybe mismatched outlets or painted over, and you can give a really nice crisp look, depending if they're doing painting and, the overall package of everything we're doing. But some of the other miscellaneous touches like that do make a difference, or face plates all matching, and pulls on the cabinets or pulls on the closet doors. So if you've got maybe the original, bronze one down there, you can add it's those little details that can make a difference. So those are a lot of the little things, and we have handymen that can easily do those things, or easily do electrical or lights. That is very cost efficient, but just adds a much more updated feel as people go in there. And then you have times where maybe the bathroom's decently updated, and then you've got like a light blue surround, where you can have that sprayed for under $1,000 and it looks brand new.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things like that. That's why it's good for us to go in there, especially ahead of time, so we can give them a list of things to do, give them an idea of what the cost is, and then they can kind of pick and choose which things, if any, that they want to address. And then any of those things are going to help increase the value.
Yeah. And we could not only help with what those things are to kind of get the clutter out of their head, but we also have the connections. We have the connections with the handyman, with the painters, with any type of vendor for the home, to be able to make sure that we have a trusted service provider to help them as well. So it's simple as possible. So
and we've got great people, and anybody I recommend, if something didn't turn out right, or if I go there and I'm like, no, this wasn't done, this should have been, they go back out there and do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we give them a good amount of business. We don't get any compensation from them, but they take care of our clients to another level because we're giving them business on a consistent basis. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win where we know we can have somebody go out and take care of our clients at a high level. And in turn, we help them, feed their families and grow their business as well through that trusted partnership. So I think it's a huge thing. And the things that you're talking about, help people get more money for their home. HGTV, I always say it, has changed our business. People want certain things with the style of their home, and the buyers want those things, in my opinion. So with the buyers now, interest rates, they've dropped comparison to where they were when we talked last time. to me, when I think about the fall buyer, it's a different buyer to me. It's a more cautious buyer, I think, overall, especially this year. I think with the election, I think it's a little weird. But I think overall, the market's still good. It's actually a great time to be able to buy, especially with the interest rates dropping. But what's your thoughts with buyers in the fall market?
Yeah. So, I mean, I try to encourage my buyers to, if you can find something, do it during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously, we have the ability to look in the private network to see what's available there. But the fact of the matter is there's just a lot less showings on listings. There's less buyers that are looking. So there's less competition, and prices on average come down. So that's a great time. But on the flip side, there's not as much inventory because inventory comes down as well. So we're seeing a lot, options, even though they were very low, they're going to become much lower, and they'll bottom out in January, typically February. Beginning of February is where they bottom out, where that's the least amount of homes for sale. But still, right now, we've got about as much inventory as we did, 3 months ago. So inventory hasn't come down significantly yet. So it still remains a little elevated, quote unquote, even though it's still very low.
When we say elevated, you always have to say like elevated. It's higher than what it was or similar, but it's still super low.
Historically, it's crazy low. So, so it's a great time to buy because your interest rates are going down, and the competition is going down as well. And sellers, typically become a little bit more motivated in the winter months. But one of the hesitations, you mentioned the election, and I've never seen that have an impact. I've been in the business 20 years, so I don't know is that 5 elections, whatever that is, 4.
But you block those out. Especially this one. Yeah.
For me, it didn't seem to really have an impact in the market. But there's always talk about it having an impact in the market. Who knows if there actually is an impact? But I think but I know that that's on people's mind. I think the bigger thing for me, and in the back of buyers' minds, is that their interest rates went down, and they're continuing. Like the Fed is projected to reduce interest rates 2 more times by the end of the year, and how much more next year are they going to continue to decrease interest rates? I said decrease right before November, December. Yeah. So decreasing then, next year, probably decreasing some more. So if you're a buyer, you're struggling with, do I buy now at a higher interest rate, or do I wait for interest rates to go down? The problem is that as interest rates go down, it brings more buyers into the market, and especially come spring when buyer activity picks up in a big way, and then you have interest rates super low. Now you're competing against so many more buyers.
Yeah.
So I think next year, if everything remains constant and we see interest rates continue go down, we're going to have another extremely strong spring market.
Even stronger than this spring. If that happens, I can only imagine, because that's going to, to me, it's going to, not only it's going to help the first time home buyer and those lower rates and to be able to get into the market more. It's going to help the move up buyers. It's going to help the people that have a house to sell because they weren't leaving before because they had, 3.5% interest rate. And now, so when it's 7, they weren't wanting to make that jump, but they have to. Life's changed. And for whatever reasons, they need to be able to move. I feel like we're going to get those move up buyers that their life shifting as well, and they've been holding on to being able to do that. So maybe, yeah.
The thing I struggle with that though is that as interest rates go down and you add all the new buyers into the market now that weren't there and now they are because of interest rates, we're flooding the market with more demand
without enough supply.
Eating up all the inventory. Yeah. So can inventory keep up with that, or does it go back to what it was 2 or 3 years ago, where it was just dire levels of inventory, and then you saw prices continue to shoot up? So I don't know. It just depends if you see a lot of people put their house on the market because there's more options, but I just have a hard time seeing that, because if inventory continues to go down, there's going to be less options, and I don't know, maybe interest rates, even if they were going to 5, that would add a ton more demand.
Oh gosh,
in the market.
it would. Yeah. To me, it's building needs to catch up overall to help with the supply issue. And I think there's a generational shift. People are living longer now. Not everybody can afford senior care. So they're getting in their home or they're getting into a ranch home too. So I think there's a lot there, but at the end of the day, we need more houses,
Yeah. If I had control over the system,
only if
if there was, and I know this is not possible, but if there was a way, because I know the Fed is reducing interest rates because they're trying to create this balance of, having a soft landing where there's no recession, because they're seeing signs of weakening in the economy. But if they were able to do all that and reduce interest rates for maybe, consumers, but not reduce interest rates for loans, I think that would be healthy for our business, because what we don't need now is more buyers coming into the market.
Sort of flood
What
it.
we need now is inventory to grow, and you only get that by having less buyer demand. So if we could see inventory start to grow, then I think you would actually see a lot more sales, because you'd see a lot more options.
Yeah.
But that would they reduce interest rates, it's reducing across the board, so it's going to affect mortgage rates.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I think it's just going to be another wild year, very difficult year for buyers next year. So to that point, now would be the time to try to get
jump
into something.
to jump in. Yeah.
Interest rates do go down.
You refinance. Yeah. You
Exactly.
refinance. I know I had people even from the last year and a half when interest rates gone up there, we're calling now and like, oh, go ahead and refinance. It's having those conversations with people, and they're refinancing, and now they have a much better loan. Maybe they've shortened it from a 30-year down to a 20-year, saving them money over the long haul, or maybe even to a 15-year. So,
and you can do that for free a lot of times,
yes,
right? It doesn't even cost you anything because it's built into the refinance cost.
Yeah. Exactly. So we've talked on sellers and what's their experience in the market and what the difference is between the fall and the spring. We've touched base on what buyers should anticipate now. And really for buyers, it's go time, in my opinion. If you find that right house, go now. Don't wait till the spring, because for the reasons we're mentioning, it's going to probably be more competitive, and you're going to pay more at the end of the day when you could have just refinanced and have the perfect home now, and have a house to be able to shovel for in the winter time.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. Global warming. I don't know if there'll be snow anymore.
That's not this podcast. We're not going to go there today. We're going to talk real estate and go from there. But anything else for this show? No.
Love the glasses.
All right, man. Yeah. There you go. Thesis of the show. All right. Always a pleasure talking with you, man, about real estate and giving the knowledge out to the consumer. So my friends, peace out. Join us the next time on the Royal Family Real Estate Podcast. And if you need real estate support, I think you know who to call. Royal Family Real Estate. Thanks.